What's going, guys? Hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day. So in this video, we're going to be talking about Alibaba, Caionao Logistics going public, as well as geopolitical tensions rising between the China and the US, right? So let's start off with Alibaba. Alibaba's Caionao Logistics division prepares for IPO by 2023, right? So end of 2023, they are targeting an IPO, and the firm is worth about 20 billion, right? So let's see whether they can get a premium, whether it's 25 billion or 30 billion. That would be good for all Alibaba shareholders, right? So we can see Alibaba stock is trading up 3.46% after this news, and also I think this is a very good sign, right? The moment they broke up the empire, one part of it is going to IPO, right? So I wouldn't be too surprised if a few more parts follow suit, right? Because we can see that this is part of a broader agenda, right? So that is why I say I have to get into geopolitical tensions here, right? So you can see China's JD.com to spin off industrial property units at a $1 billion Hong Kong float, right? So I mean, do you think it's completely coincidental that at the same day where Caionao Logistics comes out and says we're going for an IPO, JD.com's subsidiaries also say that they are going IPO, right? So I don't think it's completely a coincidence, right? And I think that is a broader macro push by the Chinese regime happening, right? So I'm not a tinfoil hat guy or whatever, right? But if you look at the moves China is playing, right, I think they are going for the jugular and going for the kill, right? They want to be the world reserve now, right? And especially pardon me when I say this, right? Some people get offended or what. It's not political, right? But Biden is one of the weakest presidents I've ever seen, right? So these two basically sharks, and you can call Putin whatever, a terrorist or whatever, right? But he is a shark, right? He is ruthless and willing to do whatever it takes, right? So for his own country, right? Obviously to the detriment of the rest of us, but then you have to see that they are actually a very ruthless people, right? And they can do things that, you know, the Biden administration cannot stomach, right? Whether you talk about human rights violations or what. So these are all terrible atrocities happening, right? But you have to admit one thing, which is they are willing to push further and do all the gory stuff which Western civilization is not even willing to discuss, right? So the next thing you look at is China completes first UN settled LNG trade, right? This is with France. And then you look, Saudi Arabia and Iran has a peace pact, and this is due to China-Iraqi brokered talks, right? And then last, China and Brazil to dump dollar for trade, right? So you can see that the American dollar's positioning in the global financial system is actually moving down in importance, right? And this is maybe a trade that you can take shorting the US dollar or something like that. But I still think that's very dangerous, right? Because the moment where we have a huge recession, maybe a global recession, I think a lot of money will flood back in the US dollar, right? And that might cause your trade to get squeezed out, right? But over the long term, it looks like China is becoming a really big power player, and they want to be the world's reserve currency, right? And that is why I think the shorting the US dollar trade makes sense, but I'm not really involved in Forex, so I don't really want to touch that trade either, right? And if you take a look at all these facts that are happening, right, this is not fairy tale or conspiracy, right? These are facts that are happening, right? It looks like China is becoming more and more dominant on the global stage, right? While the US is falling in importance, right? Whether this is due to weak leadership in the US, or whether because US is so divided right now, the left hates the right. Nobody seems to be able to get to the middle, right? And some people might say, if you put on your tinfoil hat, this is because of Russia and, you know, rigging elections or whatever psyops that they are doing, right? So I'm not going to get into that. Maybe that's too much tinfoil hat for a YouTube video, right? But if you guys want to discuss that with me, I have a Telegram group in the link in the description, right? So these are like deeper topics that will really trigger people and are quite offensive to some people because they can't remain objective to the facts, right? And in this case, the facts are that China, Russia, and all these other countries are actually ditching the US for China, right? Basically. So I think a lot of the American people that I see are still quite in denial of this, right? Because they think the US reserve currency position is so strong that, you know, it can never be replaced, right? And to a certain extent, I don't think this will happen overnight, right? These are just the first of many moves, right? So basically, why did I put this in the same video as a Alibaba video, right? Because you can see that this is a broader push, right? Basically, this is a development of their capital markets, right? And if you take a look at what's happening behind the scenes and the groundwork that is being laid, right? I think it's quite shocking the chess that China is playing, right? because basically they crack down on their own financial sector, and they crack down on their own tech sector, right? And because of the crackdown on their property sector, they don't have that cataclysmic collapse. And because of their crackdown on the tech sector, they have cheaper prices for all these stocks, right? So if you take a look at it that way, whether you say it's purposely done or what, because after they crack down on Alibaba and all these other stocks, right, a lot of the Western investors all just dump Alibaba stock, right? And now most of the shares are held by maybe Eastern or Southeast Asian investors, right? So that leads me to believe there is a broader thing at play, right? What I'm saying is basically they crack down, the shares change hands, and now they are doing things to unlock back the value, right? So if you're enjoying the video so far, do help me smash up the like button, hit subscribe, and also hit the bell button and press on all, right? So this will really help out the channel, and also watch till the end, right? Because obviously you don't want to miss any important information. Basically, they're using these companies as a capital attraction, right? Basically, if you know what is important for a global reserve currency, it's basically strong capital markets. People want to save in your currency and all of that, right? And if you have a strong stock market, that is one of the key pillars for people to want to save in your country, right? Because obviously, if there is a lot of stocks on the US market that I want to buy, I have to buy US dollars. Only I can buy the US stocks, right? So the same thing, what happens when there's a lot of stocks on the Hong Kong exchange, right? And you can argue whether Hong Kong and China are separate countries or whatever. That is also a gray area thing, right? But for the most part, I think Big Brother has his hand right over Hong Kong and say, don't you do anything stupid, right? Basically, Big Brother, mainland China, right? And in this case, if you have all the popular IPOs and all the popular stocks in the Hong Kong exchange, and the Hong Kong market is basically booming, right? What will end up happening is a lot of people will dump out of their maybe international stocks or US stocks, and I think 60% or 70% of the global stock exchange is basically on the US stock exchanges, right? So you can see that there is a lot of room for Hong Kong to basically catch up, right? And if they dump the US stocks, basically they are dumping the US dollar and buying Hong Kong dollars with the US dollar, right? At the moment, it doesn't change anything because the Hong Kong dollar and the US dollar are pegged I think it's 7 to 1 or something like that, right? 7 Hong Kong dollars for 1 US dollar, right? So at the moment, of course, it doesn't change anything, but we all know that pegs can break, just like unspoken rules like Japan's, basically the bond yields cannot go above a certain amount. Everybody thought that, and then when the BOJ raised the ban, right, instantly a lot of people got wiped out, margin call and things alike, right? So basically what I'm saying is all these are things that are impossible to happen, like SVB collapse or US dollar being replaced as a global financial reserve, right? It's all possible to happen. So don't think it's impossible. And you always have to look at the facts, right? What are the facts happening? What are the facts happening? You look at this. This is with France. This is with a Western country. So you can't just say that, oh, it's just some backwater countries that China is doing deals with. And in fact, you might look down at Russia, but they have a lot of the natural resources that we need to push forward civilization, right? So these are very important macro facts that are happening that we have to take a look on, right? So I'm not saying make your financial decisions based on these things, right? Because just because China come out, there is always still a possibility that they come out and do all these things and then they rug pull investors at the end, right? So it's always possible. So personally, I wouldn't change my investment philosophy based on all these facts, right? But what you can look into is maybe like, for me, I'm personally invested into Alibaba. That's why I'm following all these stories. But if you're not comfortable, maybe you can look at things that do a lot of business with China. Maybe LVMH is one option. Maybe some miners for all these commodities and all this are also another option, right? And they do a lot of exporting to China or whatever it is, right? So that is like something to think about, right? So this is just basically a template for you to look at, and then you pick up what you like to see, and then you can dump what you don't like, right? So basically for me, I'm in Alibaba, so all these developments obviously concern me because I'm in Alibaba, right? Because if there are any things happening with China and also US, and again, I'm not going to get into it because you know what happened the last time when someone tried to trade commodities in not US dollars, right? So I don't want to talk about what happened here, right? Again, right, Telegram is in the description, right? If you really want to get into that conversation. But yeah, that's about all I wanted to share today. If you did enjoy the video, do help me smash up the like button, hit subscribe, and also hit the bell button. With that being said, have a fantastic day ahead and peace out.